But you had a problem with my tweet, is that right?
And not so much a problem, or I guess like I had a couple of questions. So I'm not trying to tell you that you have to be friends with conservatives, right? I think you're totally fine with saying like, oh, if I disagree with someone's politics enough, that then I maybe just don't want to associate them. I just had more questions about the spectrum of which like that you're okay versus not okay with, and then just also in general. I know like we're both pretty online, but I'd say like you're technically a little bit more online because this is your actual job and this is just a hobby for me. And I would ask, what do you have friends that you don't talk about like politics stuff with?
Um, oh, okay. So a couple things in
Yeah,
there. For
I
one,
know,
it would
I know,
have
I threw a lot at you, so I didn't mean to. Yeah, sorry.
For one, it would have to be, it's more like a case by case basis when it comes to a lot of people. A lot of people have like a big mosaic mishmash of beliefs and ideas. That would make me want to be like, yeah, I don't really like you. I don't think of people when I'm going to be friends with them. Well, like I don't think of that. I don't think of it like I would like to be friends with this person. I'm going to try to be friends with this person now. It's sort of like a thing that just happens. I'm a pretty like introverted person. I don't reach out and speak to people that often. I kind of like it that way. I kind of just gain my friendships and acquaintanceships naturally in that way. But if I just generally just don't really enjoy this person, and a big part of that can be their politics. If they said something that's pretty shitty, and they don't feel like backing down from any of that, then yeah, I'm more like, yeah, I don't really care to be spend any time around you whatsoever.
I got you.
And that's fine. I think the there are people that I know who aren't very political. They're not. I don't. As far as I know, they don't have like many bad beliefs. They're like I mean, I would imagine from talking about some things because I don't think there's like a time where you're a good interpersonal friend with someone where politics won't come up. And I think if you have to both agree never to talk about politics ever, I think I'd rather just not be friends with you in the first place. But that's just me personally.
Oh,
I mean they've been like it's just like the casual sort of like little bit of a biphobia, little bit of a NB phobia type thing that you would imagine from someone who hasn't spent a single moment in their life thinking about any of these issues would have. That I'm like, oh hey, that's a little these type of people find that like super offensive, and then they usually go, oh okay,
right.
and then we move on from that.
Yeah, I got you. I guess that makes a bit more sense. I've always or at least when I'm like offline, right? Like when I'm at the office, it's pretty heavily like not political, right? And most of my work friends or people that I work with, they're one. I don't really know a lot about their political affiliations, and I normally when I hang out with them, right? If we go, I might be going out for drinks with them tonight, right? And I don't. We just don't really talk about politics because it's kind of discouraged at the office. And normally, when I meet somebody and I like that person, I don't immediately start by asking them all their political opinions to see if there's something that I find distasteful enough to like not want to be friends with them, right? Like, I normally don't start the like, oh, like, hey, you seem pretty fun, like at a bar, like, do you hate gay people or black people or Jewish people or something like that, right? If it comes out and I find something like sufficiently egregious, like if someone says like, oh, I'm like a white nationalist, I probably won't be friends with that person, right? But I feel like there's a pretty broad spectrum of like different political affiliations that I'm okay with in terms of like being friends with somebody. Where I think a big, in regards to like economic stuff, I'm I've put in less stock in that personally. In regards saying like if someone isn't in favor of single payer healthcare, I don't immediately discount them as friend material, right? I think what I'm okay with like from a friendship is much more based on my social issues or socially things that I care about, and if people can respect me or even if they can just listen to me, and if we disagree and we like, oh, like we just won't, we either won't talk about this, or if we bring it up, we disagree, and then we go back to being friends like after we finish that conversation. I don't see that as an inherently negative experience, and I would say it's almost a negative in regards to a lot of people, especially online people, in being able to communicate with people or have positive relationships with people who disagree with us, if that makes sense. I feel like it almost feels like we can potentially put ourselves into a, I don't want to say an echo chamber, because I think this is more like specific. This is like less specific, but it's almost like we can't communicate positively with people who are outside of certain spectrum of us. And I would most likely advocate for trying to expand that spectrum to include, at the very least, I would say, set like to up into center right people.
There's a, I don't know. I may just be built different, but there's a very distinct difference. There's a wide chasm between having a positive experience and or relationship in the broad sense of just like two human beings interacting and that's a relationship,
Okay.
than being someone's friend. Because we're talking specifically about being their friend. Like what I said, I can be I can be quite easily cordial with people with like bad political opinions.
Right.
But
we all share.
that's a there's a big difference between that and like and being their friend than having just like a positive relationship with them in the sense that if I see them on the street, I won't like spit and go, "You are disgusting," and then like walk away. It's more it's just different like that. But I don't know. Just for me, I think friend is like incredibly different.
Okay.
There's a big interpersonal relationship there, that I would consider people friends. I don't consider too many people my actual friend.
Okay.
I consider a lot of people acquaintances, and I think of a lot of other streamers as coworkers. But
Oh, okay.
simply talking to them doesn't make them really necessarily like my friend.
Okay. I guess for me, I've always I guess I have a pretty small jumping off point from acquaintance to friend, where I normally don't think of people as acquaintances. It's more like if I have a series of positive relationships with, or like our positive interactions with somebody, I consider like being I'm friendly with them. And once we get to a certain point, I consider most people like that I have positive interactions with my friends. I just have like a say a spectrum of how good a friend are we, right? Like I would consider you a friend, but I wouldn't say that we're great friends, right? Like we don't hang out pretty much like since we stopped playing D&D, like that kind of thing, right? But I would still consider at the very least like being friendly with you. But maybe I would consider someone like say Spectre, who I communicate with like a good amount more, to be a better friend. And this isn't like knocking you. This is just like maybe it's just different in how we apply friends. Like how many people would in your life would you consider like not non-family related, right? Like would you consider to be friends?
Wait 1 second.
Oh, sorry.
Probably like six people, maybe
Oh,
seven.
oh wow. And I assume like there's dozens more people that you would consider acquaintances.
Yeah, like we're friendly. I think they're fine. They're not my friend.
Okay.
But they're fine.
Okay.
I think that it's like the feelings. I would imagine like the feelings are the same, but we categorize those differently. I just wouldn't consider those people friends. We don't talk. We don't hang out with. I wouldn't feel necessarily comfortable being like emotionally vulnerable with those people.
Oh, okay.
I don't know too much about them necessarily, and I honestly don't really care to know that much about them.
Okay.
Not because I hate them, but because I just don't care.
That makes sense. Would you have you ever had an extreme, say, political disagreement with a friend, and like, did that ever like ruin a friendship, or would you normally say that by the time you consider someone like good enough, like well acquainted enough that you're friends with them, that you know like pretty certainly that no one's going to that they're not going to have a political opinion that makes you not want to be friends with them? Do you normally like, feel people
So
better?
the thing is, like back when I was in IT, there was especially because this is like I was back in high school. This is like during like the Trump administration, some guys, especially when they were like a lot like politically like centrist or didn't or like apolitical or didn't care much, thought like Trump was like super funny and cool, and they had like some Trump hats and everything, and they thought it was like funny. I didn't think it was very funny at all or very cute or anything, and I didn't like that. I argued with them a little bit, and they're like, "Well, it's just funny, like, dude, it's crazy. I mean, like, he's whatever, you know." And I'm just like, "Yeah, okay." And then I just kind of stopped speaking to them mostly. Um, I just that was just like a big turn off for me. So I just kind of stopped speaking to them a lot of the time. And so that was like 2 years ago.
Okay.
And recently, I started talking to one of them again. Um, because like they weren't like not my friends, they were like my friends. But the thing is like I don't have a problem like not speaking to someone if I don't like them. I don't feel this like big need. I need to keep this I need to keep this going. I'm not that desperate. I'm perfectly fine being by myself and all that. It's unfortunate, but unfortunate and like trying to force something that I know won't work isn't something that I want to spend my time on. I'd much rather spend my time doing much other things. And if I can spend my time making different relationships. But so I mean, he was my friend already, so I didn't hate him. I just didn't want to spend time with him. I just there's a much different thing, honestly. Oh, and like earlier you were like, oh, I don't like go to people and then run them down the list to see if I'm going to like them or not. I don't do that either, but I mean, there are things that are important to me, and I speak about them every now and again. And obviously, if we have like a big disagreement on that sort of stuff, if we have a big disagreement on like the human rights that comes to like with trans people, non-binary people, systemic racism, hatred for other like racial groups, or like a big sort of I don't care sort of thing, I'm kind of like, yeah, it's pretty distasteful. And if that's coupled with other things, and I really don't care about necessarily
Oh, okay.
working fastidiously day and night to make sure that this relationship works, I'm just gonna stop talking to them.
Oh, okay. So I guess you're, stop me if I'm wrong, right? You seem to dislike like political apathy, right? That where you're like, if you see someone who is sort of like touching like the surface of politics, but it's mostly for memes, especially memes that you like find distasteful or against your values, you like start checking out from that person, from saying like, oh, like I dislike this or I dislike that person, right?
You could, I mean,
Or not,
I don't,
I think dislike
I
is too
don't,
strong a word. Sorry, I didn't mean to like put that in your mouth.
yeah, I'm not sure if I'd say necessarily dislike, but I'm like, well, it's kind of like, well, that's an unfortunate, type thing. I think it's like really important. I mean, I don't know. For me, I just for like for the how I think about this type of stuff. Like in Gap, he said this as well, where he brought up, and I feel like it's like really telling about our disagreements, where he talked about this and his and how he likened it to was like a hobby or a topic. Like politics is not a hobby or a topic. It's not like cute or fun to me. I have fun talking about politics, but I make it fun. This is not really like fun. This leads like politics at the end of the day is a lot about people's civil, social, and lawful rights, and the preservation, creation, or degradation of those. And for someone who's like family is has just started to get to the point where we've been able to, build wealth and keep property after being property. For me, this is something that I don't think about. That's just like, oh, it's just like simple disagreements. I think that's a really privileged position to be like simple disagreements. Simple. It's just like a hobby type thing. Like we disagree on which model train is the coolest. It's just that's I don't think of it like that.
Would you consider a lot of like online stuff in this regard to be like the model train stuff? Like whether you like say like like whether you like Destiny or Vosh, or whether you like like certain like types of like streamers versus other streamers. I agree with you that it seems like there are a good amount of things that are not superfluous, right? Like as in like whether you consider people to have like rights, right? Or whether you believe systemic racism is real. But there are a lot of smaller things that I think are more akin to the hobby-esque type. And I feel like sometimes we put them together. But also, I wanted your opinion.
If we're specifically talking about just like, okay, so here's the thing, okay? Doing content used to be my hobby. It's a job. It it's a job to me now. But we can, for the purposes of this, we can still classify it as like hobby, I guess. I think it can be a little bit more important than that. I think it's vitally important that we have left-wing figures who are able to talk about these issues, uh, assertively, confidently, and in in a way that is beneficial to the movement because this is a movement at the end of the day. I don't know. It's just like when I think of like just your average conservative, I just see a lot of people who are either apathetic or like tacitly not caring or apathetic or personally pushing for making the world a worse place for many certain types of people for no good reason but either their own benefit or their own like disgust for those people. Right? And so I mean, it's just like, yeah.
No, no, okay. What
I
about?
don't. I just don't care to be necessarily friends with those types of people. It seems like, and I don't think it's like my problem. It seems like their problem necessarily for not. Oh, I almost forgot your question, but I remember it now, so I'm going to answer that too.
Thanks.
It seems like their problem for like not liking good things and enjoying bad things, but like the job in itself, you can classify that as a hobby, and the like political sort of like trenches that we dig ourselves into, that can be hobbies, but the ideas themselves are not hobbies. They're not it's not a it's not part of the hobby. Like a hobby is built on top of it, but the ideas in themselves are not hobbies. When we talk about these issues, trans issues, like people of colors issues, international issues, climate change, that's not the hobby part. The way in which we talk about those and the way in which we interact with each other is the hobby part. These ideas are not part of the hobby.
Do you feel like this is? I guess this is like more of like a personal question. Do you feel like you has your opinion on these sort of like this sort of stuff changed since this like became a job for you? Like, are you having more or less fun with it? Like, how do you? I mean, obviously, like it's probably pretty like super cool and like it's super awesome that you can do this full time. As your perspective on this changed since you went full time as opposed to doing this as a hobby?
It's been more fun because I don't have to, you know, if I'm pulling like, because I used to pull, I still pull like pretty long days, but I used to, I cut my time from 8 hours, at like my normal job to six, and so I would do 6 hours at work, and then I'd come home, and there'd be like a 3 hour window where I'd make sure that I upload the video for the day, and I finish researching for stream, and then I'd stream for another 5 hours, and then I'd cut the stream for another like 2 or 3 hours, and then prepare that for the next day. So that's what like all of my days look like.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like very little time to do anything else. And thankfully, since I have more time now, I can, I can, spend it not like frantically working and scheduling everything out to make sure that I can stream for at least 4 to 5 hours a day. And I make sure that I get to work on time and make sure that I have a video up every day and make sure that I'm still thinking about new topics to go over. So it is more fun in the sense that it's a little bit more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more serious because now I'm like, oh, I need to make sure that we keep up with these certain things and make sure that the views are as good. It's not just like for my own personal enjoyment. It's for and for like giving an outlet for these ideas. It's now it's like, oh, it's good. It's I have to make sure that I'm able to still pay for all my bills. So I still have a lot of fun, and thankfully, since I have more time, I can do more things that are fun. Like my Bone Lord video that's coming out sometime soon. I want to make more pre-recorded content. That's fun. So I would say it's more fun, but it's a little bit more serious as well.
I was gonna say because I feel. Do you ever feel like you're more like enslaved to the algorithm or something like that now that you can't like I can do like say fun streams where I'm like fuck it, I know I'm gonna get 10 viewers off of this, but I'm just gonna do it because I like enjoy this. Do you feel like you can't do that as much now, or do you feel like overall you're okay and you've like sort of trained your audience to the point where they accept you doing different things?
I think it's mostly you have to understand that when it comes to this type of stuff, you have to understand that some things are going to do bad, but it's just good to do nevertheless. It's good for your mental health to take a step away from politics and just play some games. And honestly, I couldn't care. Like, I think I average around like 200 viewers right now. And I wouldn't care less if I started playing Smite on stream and I'm averaging like 50 or 40. It doesn't matter to me because I know like a decent amount of people who are there still are like my regulars and will be having fun and I'll be having fun because I'm playing something that I enjoy. Um, it's like I have to make sure that I do both, but there's like a quota like okay, there's the serious stuff that I need to do, there's the content that I need to do, there's the segments that I need to get done, there's the research that I need to do, and then I want to spend my time on me. It's kind of like making sure that you have some money at the end of the month to spend on yourself to make sure that you won't go insane. With just like paying your rent, buying food, spending like bills. You need to make sure that you like go to the movies sometimes and go out to go get drinks with your friends sometimes and buy that nice thing that you always wanted for yourself. So it's kind of like that where you need to make sure of that. And on the other end, the more serious stuff, like policy, like straight hardcore policy discussions are not going to do as well. Like on my channel, like dunking, like loser conservative gets their back blown out by Chad Progressive episode 453 of like a React video is going to get like 30K views. And then let's talk about the internal mechanisms of the Joe Biden administration is going to get like
Like 2K.
7 to 10. But
yeah.
yeah, but it's more like 7 to 10. But it's that's
Nice,
fine.
good for you.
That's fine. Those things need to happen. You shouldn't not do it. I mean, you may want to spend a little bit less time on it specifically since this is your job, but those things need to happen. And typically, if I do stuff like that, I upload it on the same day as I do a dual upload with the really important topic and then the fun topic, but the fun topic still has really important information in there as well.
That makes sense. And then I guess I have one more like sort of specific question. So I have a really good friend, right? And we vibe like we're personality wise, we're super compatible, right? We vibe really well. We're good drinking buddies. We argue about economics a lot. She's like she's like a center right person. She works in finance.
The Fuentes fan.
No, not the Fuentes fan. This is someone else. She doesn't do online stuff. But the one thing that I've never been able to really move her on is she's super Catholic. And she's fine with, say, like all manner of contraceptives. She still doesn't like abortion. And I guess like, how would you respond to something like that? Because I didn't know this person was like a Catholic girl until like we were after we were already hanging out, and this was like in college. We're still friends, but it's like, until I already knew her for like several weeks, right? And so, are there certain people with either just like a really strong different view, but otherwise like are like sort of in line or at least acceptable? That you'd be more okay with? Because I'd say like abortion's obviously like a super big moral good, right? But I like this person for all their other qualities, and I can't move them on this explicit thing. How would you react to something like that?
I mean, it would depend a lot on like how much I care about maintaining this relationship, how much that bothers me like in the moment, because those are also like really important things. It's not something like interpersonal relationships aren't something that it's usually like pretty messy and hard to like pin down a lot of the time. So I'm not sure necessarily. There's no like real line like a lot of the time. With that, I mean, abortion is like an important issue. For me, I think abortion in and of itself is bad. I don't think it's like a good thing. I don't think like if a girl has an abortion, we like, we blow we pop the confetti and we blow the horns and we're popping champagne. I don't think that's fun. It's not a good thing, but it's something necessary for society. And otherwise there's even more harmful outcomes from that, right? So for me, I mean, I think that'd be very like regrettable. And I guess there'd be other things that I would have to weigh to see if I would like not be this person's friend. I think more likely than not, if it's like that and then some like other things on top of it, I'd be like, yeah, I just really don't care to spend time around this person anymore.
Okay. So there are so if I'm so once you like find something about somebody that you find like imminently politically disagreeable, like to a certain degree, right? Like I assume like you wouldn't can't like not be friends with say like a liberal if they weren't like down for like a socialist revolution, right? Or something like
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
like I'm like we were talking specifically about conservatives. Like
r-
I have
right.
people who are more conservative than me. I have liberals in my friend groups. I have some like centristy people. Well, actually, my bad. Yeah, liberals in my friend group. I have like because I don't know. We'll branch it out to acquaintances because I don't think that I'm necessarily an acquaintance with anybody who I would consider a conservative at the moment. So with those type of people, yeah, just
Okay. And then what if how do you feel about people who are like aggressively apolitical to the point where like none of their interests are related to politics? They don't talk about like they don't even vote. Would you be comfortable being friends with those people, or because I have a lot of friendships like that where it's like I have like dudes who I know at the gym who like I'll talk to only about lifting, right? Or I have friends that I'll only talk to about Magic the Gathering, right? I have like compartmentalized friendships based around different hobbies, and a lot of times they don't bleed into each other. Like I have different friends that I talk to about politics than friends who I talk to about like some of my other hobbies, right? Whether it's like whether it's lifting, whether it's gaming, whether it's like card games, that kind of thing. Do you have any
Are you
or
sure they're apolitical or they just don't talk about politics?
because I've asked, like, well, it's more of a hypothetical for you, but I do have but I have had conversations with them before about my politics and answered questions, but I would say by and large, a lot of them either don't care or they don't want to talk about it. To the not even just because like they're worried about their ideas being challenged. It's just they haven't really thought about it and they don't like thinking about it, so they don't want to talk about it. And this isn't just like white guys either. Like this, I've had friends like this in college, like like across the spectrum, like who don't care about these sort of things. Where it's like there was this person I dated, not dated, but like we hung out and like hooked up a couple times. He was a trans man, like a trans guy, and we didn't talk about politics ever. We just talked about like video games and like improv classes and Game of Thrones, right? And even though like you could say like their identity and like that their rights, like obviously like, are political, right? Trans rights and that sort of stuff, but it just never came up or never even like talked about it.
I don't know, I think the like aggressively apolitical thing is pretty cringe and it's regrettable. But if there was someone who like spreads it, like they're like we must make sure that other people are like apolitical and shit like that, I'd be like, you need to quit. Like that's not good. I don't know. Here, let me ask you something.
Okay.
So for someone not to where would you go to, this is like really bad, where they just stopped caring about, where they just didn't care? What if you told them about like in other countries they're throwing like gay people off of roofs and they're like, I don't really care that much. Like
Um,
does that, are you like, whoa.
or like if you see like someone like if you're walking down the street with somebody and like they look at a homeless person and like they like act disgusted, right? Like I would say that like the homeless person like hater is probably a shit person. Like they can't even look at a human being with compassion. But I would say that most people, including conservatives, like this is a conservative talking point, but I would also say that a good amount of people have the capacity for compassion in any situation, even if they're conservative. Because if I say like if I told like my mom who's conservative, right, or if I just told like let's take someone who's even more conservative, like my uncle, right, he's like a QAnon kind of guy, right, and I told him, hey, these people are being like like thrown off buildings for what they are. I think there might be some like super far right people who would say like, oh, like that's like I wish I could do that here, right? And those are fucking monsters, obviously. But a lot of people were like, oh, that's barbaric and horrible. And I think the vast majority of society, when presented with stuff like that, they say, oh yeah, that's bad. I think maybe I give more credit to these kind of people, but I'm pretty sure if I like tell a conservative person, hey, there's a lot of homeless people like in this area, or like there's a lot of hunger in this particular country, they'll say it's bad, but oftentimes they'll just have like either no idea how to fix the problem or an incorrect idea of how to fix the problem.
So yeah, it's like sure they can feel compassion, but why? And but how and why they feel compassion is also like important. So you can be like, oh, they feel compassion in this situation. Then you ask them, and they're like, yeah, I feel really bad that these guys are just kind of losers who never pick themselves up by their bootstraps and they ruin their own lives and they're ruining their property value and the street. And I mean, sure, then there'd be like compassion. I guess, in a sense. I don't think that'd be good though.
Okay, so it's like it's better than not, but you would still assume that they're even them if they like felt compassion, it's not like the right kind, right? Like they're not doing it because of some like full altruistic mission. They're just like fucking. I want to walk down the street without having to worry about like a homeless person begging me for money or something. That's like the sort of.
Or even it could be a little bit more complicated than that then. And it could just be like, I feel bad that this person destroyed their own life by not working hard enough.
Oh, like condescending compassion, right? Where you're like, oh, I feel so bad for you. You're so fucking stupid. Like your life is terrible. Like that kind of thing, right?
Sort of like bless your heart type of
Oh, the bless your heart people. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I would, I guess I would say that a lot of people, with except I think might be like the more I said like the more political people have stronger opinions about this. But I know like a good amount of you've seen the memes about like how like more like religious people like donate to charity more or like donate to like private like charities like and that kind of stuff more than like more liberal people. And I think it's because they just have they also want to like try and help the world a little bit, but they just I would just say they're doing it the wrong way. Like whether they're supporting charities who are homophobic or stuff like because that's obviously super shitty, or someone who let's say like there's like an apolitical person who like eats at Chick-fil-A, right? They're technically supporting an institution does that is explicitly like homophobic. How would you feel about that kind of like activity? Because I think because I have a follow up question, but if you could answer that one first.
What I think about someone who eats at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think if like you hear about like the actual like homophobia and you can understand that and then you still say you don't care, I think that'd be I think that's pretty telling about someone's um about like someone what they care about and who they are. Because like we can always be like, oh, you just separate the politics from like the personality. I think your politics stem from your politics stem from your upbringing, your real world experience, who you are and what you care about. That's where your politics comes from. It comes from the environment. Same way as your personality. So it stems from the same place. I don't know why people keep trying to say that these two things are like different, especially when their politics keeps coming up in like actual things that they do, and things that they say and the beliefs that they have once you spend enough time with them. Like we can always say like, oh, we have this person where I only talk about where I only talk about this with, and I only see them on Thursdays when I go to the gym. Like, fine, but they have other people in their life and they talk about other things and they have beliefs about the world. They do, whether they want to talk about them or not. They do, and that does bleed out in some ways to their other personality in which they interact with other people. So I think that would be telling. Personally, I do think like at the same time where we live in like really a really like globalist sort of connected society, it's really hard to be able to disconnect from a lot of bad um, actors and bad like capitalist institutions. It's like I mean, it's unfortunate if someone like doesn't care at all about spending some of their money on not Amazon. Um, but I think it'd be like a little. I think it's like a little bit different.
You all fucking
Um,
stop and
like
calm down a
how
little
will they,
bit.
why they don't care? Will they ever care? Do they have the capacity to like think that they're going to care, right? And like what information can you bring to that person to make them to care? All things that I would think about.
Oh, okay. One second. I didn't want to interrupt you, but irrelevant. Thank you so much for the raid. What's up, big guy? Hello, everybody. I'm just right now just having I'd say a really pleasant, cool chat with Shark about like friendship and politics and that kind of thing. I think this is a really fun
Hello.
conversation. Everyone say hi to Shark. And then afterwards, we're doing like Destiny reacts. We're finishing his debate with Hake, which is mind melting. Then we're watching the infrared meme, and then I want to watch the Hassan and Ethan advice for men thing, because I've heard like mixed things on it. I want to see like whether it's good or not. Like I saw you saw it. Like did you like it?
Me?
Yeah.
I watched some of it. The way in which they handled a lot of that stuff was really good. I think they were really compassionate, especially and I talked about it a little bit. I thought it was like really regrettable that so many people were like dunking on these people, especially like this one big tweet that was like your if you need Ethan and Hassan to give you some confidence, you're more disabled than me. Like, damn, dude, what the fuck? Like these people, a lot of these people are like neurally divergent. A lot of these people don't know what to do with themselves and are obviously struggling. And they go to like their creators who have opened up a space for them to like be emotionally vulnerable and talk about their issues with, where they probably wouldn't have either the time or money or resources to do it anywhere else, and genuinely helping these people and care to spend the time to do so. I think that's just like kind of disgusting to dunk on that type of shit like that.
I
They
got
seem
you.
to be doing a good job, and I mean, if you disagree with their ideas, go ahead. But it seems like people just want to dunk on these guys for even attempting to open their mouth.
Right, or it's like people are like, why do we need to like break into like the men's advice column? Like, why don't we just like, because the only people who talk about that are like the weird skepto nuts, right? Or like the manosphere people. And it's like, maybe we shouldn't cede, like half of the human race to, or at least like online, to like a bunch of the fucking weirdos who also like you have what we would call reactionary politics, right? Like have say positive examples of masculinity on the left, as opposed to just saying like, hey, like men bad, right? That kind of thing.
I think it's even worse. I think like I said that they're some of the worst people on earth, and I still like agree with that. Have you seen like what Fresh and Fit said on TikTok that got them banned?
I've seen some of their shit and it's really really toxic. What was the thing that got them banned?
So what got them banned is that one of the dudes was like, "What's up, guys? I'm gonna teach you guys how to get a girl to say yes after she says no to having sex with you when she's in your house." And basically,
Ah, ah.
the idea was like, after she says no and she's sitting on the couch, you go, "Okay, respect her boundaries. Go into the other room and pretend to call another girl, and then loudly talk about how you're going to have sex with her instead of like the girl who's in your house to get her to be like jealous or something, or like anxious enough to just like say yes instead of getting like kicked out."
So just like
Um,
emotional games, right? So you're just like trying that's super
yeah,
fucked.
like emotionally manipulate her and coerce her into having sex with you if she says, and I'm just like, you are, and that got him banned. And they're like, I can't believe we're getting banned. We're getting censored for this. They're insane.
Yeah, that sounds pretty insane. That was yeah. I guess there's a so back to like I want to watch some of that shit now. I want to like dunk. I hate. To be fair, I've delved into this right. Whenever some like super alpha masculine like person comes at me, like I'm normally fine responding in kind. In terms of like that, so I guess I participate in the toxicity like in that way. But that's I really dislike the overly macho stuff. But and oh god, yeah,
They're a little weird,
yeah, that is pretty weird.
a little strange.
It was like the only time I've really done it. I think it was I was on like a Zerka like podcast panel, and Infrared was like talking a bunch of shit, and then I just started making fun of him because he always makes fun of men who aren't as muscular as him, and so I started saying like, "Yo, bro, I'm wider than you." And taller than
Oh
you.
fuck.
Like it was,
Oh.
I out alphaed Infrared. It was really fun. But back
I
to
mean, I think in those situations, that's kind of like that's your tactical N word, basically.
oh yeah, Oh no! But I know what you mean, right? It's like, it's like I can be way more toxic than you. I can be way more aggressively masculine than you, right? Yeah, I know what you mean. But back to the
Yes.
yeah, it's fun detour. But back to the the thing. Um, what about how do we feel about people who I I would say have really negative values or proclivities towards violence, um, that you might also find acceptable. So I don't think I've ever like actually asked you this. Are you like pro like revolution or no in like America,
Uh,
like overthrowing the United States government?
revolution has a lot of different
Uh,
terms
so
and definitions.
I,
I
I,
think
I,
typically
I
when
would mean
people say
violent. Sorry.
revolution, what you mean is like the working class get their ARs and they all combat roll into the White House and take over,
Right, specifically violent
type
revolution.
shit.
Like that's normally what I'm talking about. Like as opposed to like
Yeah.
like political revolution through the ballot box or that kind of thing, or protests, right?
Um. No, not really.
Okay. So how would you
Like, what
how
do I think about that type of person? Would I want to be friends with them?
that, and also how would you feel about in regards to like say the Chick-fil-A thing, right? What about people who have the means to live like say relatively cruelty-free lives, right? Like they could maybe like shop locally, they can get like food or clothes from say like more cruelty-free like brands and stuff. How do you feel? I'm not saying like you like don't be friends with people who aren't like morally perfect, right? But I guess like do you have like some sort of like like metric or line as to like whether you start considering someone a bad person if they say like don't for like they don't live all like the quote unquote values, right? Like like it's one.
I think it's a lot.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's a lot less about the means, necessarily, because you can have the means to do whatever you want. But like, you knowing what to do, knowing how to do it, or having, or like even like sometimes having like the willpower, or even like remembrance to do those types of things, all play into it. If you like remember that you should be doing this, if you have the resources to do it, if it's not that difficult to do, and you still decide not to, I think that has less to do with. I think that the more agency that you can ascribe to the person, the worse of a person they become, right? Because if
Right.
there's someone who like has enough time to do something like be vegan, and I'm not talking about you need to be like start to instantly be 100% vegan or something, or vegetarian, or even like, right, but you like, like the meat industry has a lot of cruelty. We grew up in it and everything, but you don't care to at all like be like, hey, and you remember it, and you're like, hey, I think this one time I'm gonna cut the meat out of this this meal, or something like that. If you don't even care to try to even attempt to do anything good in a bad situation, I think, yeah, like not only are you going to be on the wrong side of history, you're not even going to attempt to be on the right side. Like I know we're like conditioned to do some like bad things sometimes, but if you don't even care to attempt to do something good, it's kind of cringe. And I think the more that goes on, the more I know about it, and the less they care, it will all play into whether or not I want to be friends with them into the future.
Okay, that's fair. That's normally
Um,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and the revolution thing actually was interesting because I met this one Tinder girl. She was in like Indianapolis, so I like drove to go spend. I think I was going to spend like 2 days there in her apartment. She had a nice cat. The cats were nice.
Wait, do you live in Indy or like sorry, in Indiana?
No, I live in Kentucky.
Oh shit. Okay. I was like, I live in
Yeah, it wasn't
Indiana.
like.
Like, I was like, well, fuck, we could have hung out over the holidays. But like, go ahead.
I hope you get well. Get well soon.
Thanks.
Indiana's not a good place.
I
But
mean, I live and work in Virginia, but Virginia's so much better. But sorry, keep going.
yeah, Indiana is not a great place whatsoever. But it was like a so we were like, we played a game of chess, and then afterwards we were just chilling. Um, and she was like, she asked me this question, the question I always think is not like nowadays, like sends chills down my spine, which is, so do you talk about politics, or like do you know anything about politics? And typically when I get that type of question these days, I think that what happened is that I've just like accidentally exploited a parasocial relationship, and this is a fan now.
Oh
That I'm chilling with, and I'm because it's kind of happened before that I've been noticed by people. I've been witnessed before when I was in Texas. A fan noticed me,
no!
and I had friends who were like, "Whoa, you just popped up on my YouTube feed." So I know like I'll like go out sometime, and there's probably going to be someone who knows me, and so that's what I was thinking. But the answer was no, and we started talking a little bit, and apparently uh she's like a communist girl who was pro like revolution, and was like, yeah, I'm thinking about like when after like this summer I was thinking about buying a gun and doing some gun training sometime soon, just in case like the working class just in case like the ruling class comes to kill my mom or something. Because like there was like a lot of problems with like the landlord and how the landlord was like abusing her mom, and
Mhm.
so and I was like, I mean, I, I was like, I just don't think that violent revolution necessarily is the best way to get there. Like I know where you're coming from, but I'm just not sure if there's the best way to get there. And yeah, I don't know. We didn't go any further than that, but
Dude, you stopped. You said no killing your landlord, and she like dried right up. She wasn't down for it. Like, but no, no, but like okay. And how do you feel about And you said like it didn't go anywhere, right? But in general, like, so do you have like say like an aversion towards someone who like directly advocates for political violence? Is that like because that's more of a means than like an explicit value, right? Because like there's a lot of types of political violence. I think we could both agree there's some justified political violence, and there's some unjustified political violence. But by and large,
yeah, my idea of violence is just like violence is when one person stops another person from doing what they want, and like that can obviously expand to a lot of other things. You can stop someone from wanting to live, and you know what? That's called murder,
it's
right?
like they
And so
wanted to
obviously
continue
there's a
living, and I didn't want them to.
yeah, so there's yeah, you didn't want them to. So there's like a big continuum of that type of stuff. So I think all politics at the end of the day is like a push and pull of like some violence, but yeah, like the like going out of your way to go like and hurt someone when there's no need to, or if there's like a viable alternative is something that I'm like pretty averse to. I talked to her a little bit about it, and she was like a little bit more amicable to changing. So I was like, okay, this maybe I can like stop them on this, but
That's fair. That's fair. I was like, because I normally maybe it's just because of I've de-radicalized like a little bit since college. It's less like in terms of like my politics and more just terms of like my means. But normally at this point see like overt or at least like interpersonal like physical violence as a pretty big red flag, and that like I'm not super okay with. Um, and obviously, like I could be moved on a specific issue. Like if someone say like, oh, there's like a slave rebellion, right? I'm not going to be like, violence is bad, right? You're the same as the oppressors, right? It's like when Batman does the meme where it's like, if I kill somebody, the number of like murderers in the world remains the same, or some stupid shit like that, right? But I feel like I have a really, really high bar for what I consider to be acceptable political violence, and a lot of what I see, whether it's say like people saying, "Oh, January 6th didn't like go far enough," like in terms of like conservatives, or I see a bunch of people memeing about like killing rich people, or just killing landlords or something like that on on the left. I think both of those would be like unacceptable forms of political violence, and I normally caveat this with it seems like the left is a lot less like a lot less like seemingly capable of doing those things, right? Like we didn't storm the Capitol, we have a lot of property damage, but like we don't really kill people like very much, right? And so, but that feels like more of just like a issue of we like quote unquote lack the will, right? Like a left wing far like a extremist will tweet a bunch of crazy shit. A far right extremist will go kill people, if that makes sense. And I find them like
sure.
both.
Well, hey, what do you think about this? This is an old question, okay?
Yeah.
Let's say I don't know, some conservative is in a political office, and then they're able to and I don't know, there's 72 Republicans and 300 Republicans in the House. And they decide, you know what? Now we're going to just deport all Hispanic people. listen, the white majority, they've been attacked for too long by Democrats, and it's time to just deport all of them. Do you think that it would be wrong for Hispanic people to take up arms against that?
Um, I would say they probably have some. If it's like a violent, like expulsion, like oh, like we're going to, because this feels, I would say, quite analogous to like Hitler trying to like deport Jews from Germany, right? Where it's like, oh, hey, we're passing legislation, and this has to happen. Um, I would likely say that it would be struck down as unconstitutional, but in a hypothetical where all of the
I mean,
meat.
Andrew Jackson's like laws was struck as unconstitutional. He
Right,
did it anyways.
right. So like, and I would say in that case, if someone like say oversteps the bounds of like our existing like political structure, and someone and like say the court says no, but like let's say President DeSantis, right, does it anyway, then I'd be at that point, if our legal protections have failed and they were supposed to stop this person and the person just said Lamau, you and what army Supreme Court, then at that point I'd probably be a lot more amicable to people defending themselves.
Sure, but I think like our legal system was supposed to, and our legal system failed, is doing a lot of heavy lifting for that point. Like, would you feel differently if that was legal? If we had something in the code that said if the president wants, they can unilaterally kick out an entire race of people?
No, I would disagree with that regardless. Uh,
Yeah, so I think it would be less about like the law says so and the law failed. I think if the law stops doesn't stop that from happening, no matter what's on the books, I think the law failed. Um,
okay, I know what you're getting at. The reason why I say like we should see like what the courts say about that sort of stuff first before we say like have an armed like revolution
Fucking
of
stop and
all
calm down a little
Hispanic
bit.
people would be.
you
I like it.
lost all non-violent means first, right?
Well, it's like I like exhausting nonviolent options first, right? Where it's like if some like if President DeSantis like signed an executive order or something like that, or even like passed legislation that did that, right? Um, I probably wouldn't want an immediate like violent uprising of Hispanic people. I would hope that we have some kind of process to strike that down. And again, if that part fails, right? If America like devolves so far from where we currently are that we're allowing the exportation of people by race, at that point, I'm a lot more comfortable saying yes, you're now allowed to defend yourself. It's like saying if they if like what like if someone passed laws saying black people are no longer protected under the law for like threat like violent attacks, then at that point I'm like, yeah, if you're black, fucking defend yourself if some like crazy like white guy is coming at you, right? Obviously. It's just more like I have a distinct preference for exhausting all other measures first. But say like the court fails, say like it becomes like legal, our institutions, even on the smaller scale, like say like police stop responding to calls if they're from say like Hispanic families, or worse yet, they start like participating in like the expulsions. Then at that point, yeah, I'm more comfortable with like people defending themselves. I don't want to it's like in a what was like when Black Wall Street got burned down. I would have been fine if like black people were defending themselves from like the whites that were trying to explicitly like burn their property and stuff, and like send them back decades in terms of like economic like well-being, right? I think that's a very fair thing. It's normally asked like, what do you prefer, what's your first option versus your last option? And I think if you jump to violence immediately, I really, really don't like that, because I think that makes society inherently a lot more unstable, and that has a lot more negative outcomes than if we had tried other things first. If that makes sense. Make does that is that more amenable or understandable?
No, yeah, no. I yeah, I get it. I just want to know where your position would be on that, because like throughout history, everyone's like, man, I hope this gets better, but for a lot of people, it absolutely didn't. So like the question we can all it's always great, and it's quite privileged as well to be like, ah, man, we just not do the violence. But it's for other people who are suffering with that in those types of regimes, it's not a It's not as a simple question as that. Or like roll over and or like try and do a protest and get gunned down, or lose your entire life and family by being like kicked out to a country that you've never been to, and maybe not even be able to speak the language. I have some Hispanic friends. They don't know how to speak fucking Spanish.
I know what you mean.
They don't want to be deported to some like Hispanic fucking country.
But have you like this was a big thing like when I was in school like doing like one of my history classes, and someone already said it in chat, but in terms of like quote unquote tactics, at least like in democracies or democratic like aligned nations, nonviolent movements seem to be more successful. I'm not sure if we can like if I can find the study like up like right now, but I'm fairly
No,
certain.
it's fine. I believe that.
Yeah. And so what would we say like, and this is like partially it's like my moral stipulations of like, oh, I prefer this to it. But like from a pragmatic standpoint as well, it would be like we should probably at the like we probably shouldn't act in a way that could be interpreted as like the most negative. Or in a way that could quote unquote malign the movement, right? Like, and
Yeah, I
obviously,
don't think anybody
yeah,
disagrees that we shouldn't be exhausting like every non-violent option possible. Like, but the question's more let because since I'm pretty sure every normal person would agree with that. The question is more about if that fails, then what? And some people are like, well, just I don't know, leave or die, and don't use any violent means. Just leave or die. And then what you do is you just allow yourself to be killed, and then hope that one day that you can look down from the spirit realm and be like, man, I'm so glad that my dead body was used as a martyr to stop this crime 300 years later. That's so good. But you know, I just think that's asking for a lot for people from people,
like,
right? To just like completely avoid a final option, which would be any sort of like violent
I
uh
I
uh
understand, but I guess like
defense.
my question is that it seems like at least right now, I would hesitate to say that a lot of these would warrant the potentially like nuclear option. Like, so here's an example, right? So two things. The first thing is how this is like a brief question. How do you feel about people who quote unquote like want like the violent revolution or only believe that like, oh, violence is the only answer, but then they knock say like bourgeois electoralism? How do you feel about those types of people? Where it almost feels
They're
it feels to me like they're just like skip.
cringe.
Okay, cool. Like so that yeah okay that's all I needed for that one. But then for the other one is in regards to what we constitute as violence, right? I want to talk about like the likelihood of these sorts of things coming to pass into the degree that could warrant violence, right? Where it's like, let's say we lose the House, we lose the presidency, we lose the Senate, right? Like Republicans win. We know this is going to be a backslide for women's rights. I assume for fixing in any way like racial injustices, right? It could be worse off in terms of healthcare policy. So we're talking a lot of like about tons upon tons of indirect political violence, right? Would you consider that worthy of violence? Because what I guess I'm struggling with is like I agree with the hypothetical that if we get to like a point where things are bad enough and our institutions have failed us to such a degree that only violence is acceptable, I'll be right there in the trenches with you. I just currently don't. Maybe I'm not foreseeing uh, a scenario where that would be warranted, right?
Yeah,
Where
I'm not saying that this is like going to happen or this is inevitable. I'm just I think it's interesting hearing where people think that violence would be a would be the either the option or the only option that a group of people have, and whether or not they think that um, avoiding violence on another person on like the victim's end is more important than them dying to violence on the aggressor's end.
I understand. So like
So
so
that was like basically it. Like I mean,
yeah.
the likelihood of it happening, sure. Like I think I doubt it. But it I think it's like something that every society is going to have to grapple with. At the end of the day, like throwing around politics is not like fun. or a meme. It's nothing of the sort. It's at the end of the day talking about who gets rights, who doesn't, who has to wait for rights, who gets everything.
So I guess here's a question, right? Like if we can point to like a really atrocious wrong in society today, right? Let's say like just like undocumented people, right? Obviously they experience threats of deportation, violence, discrimination, like tons of like among I would say like the most violently oppressed people like in America today, right? I guess the question would be like, do you feel like that warrants a violent response, not just from them? Because like if they're like running from police or like altercating with police, like I probably wouldn't hold it against them to try and like run away, right? Or like to like fight back to make sure they're not detained. But how do you feel like the rest of society should respond? Is like the question, right? Like, should we take up arms and like say defend undocumented immigrants from like the what is like the Department of Homeland Security or Custom and Border like enforcement or some shit? Like, how? Because I'm trying to like, think of like an extreme example that exists today, and like just pique your brain in this like, do you feel like a violent response is warranted, not just from like the party that's being attacked, but from society at large?
Um,
Because I'm trying to find like
I
almost
think when
like
a lot of people think violence, they think of just like shooting someone. Like you can have violence without killing someone. Uh, but when I mean personally, I'm always against political violence. It's bad. But there's like when like I said, there's like flavors and there's a spectrum to it. Oh yeah, someone asked, are groups aggressors and victims? Yes, personally, I think in like some Middle Eastern countries where like people are throwing gay people off roofs, that those people are definitely aggressors and the gay people are definitely victims. That's just me though. You know, I know some people are built different. I think like I think for me, like those types of things may be able to be like resolved without like a necessarily like um deadly violent thing. Like I mean, we do this already where it comes to like ICER, these types of people trying to round up and collect like normal ass like Hispanic immigrants and throw them out of the country. Like this is something that we're able to do. I mean, California stopped helping ICE, and that's not something that's violent or like nobody's died because of that. It's just, you know, there's a lot of
like
different
less
things that you can
institutional
do. It's
support.
kind of like an underground railroad type thing where you don't really have to shoot people.
I got you. So there are ways of like subverting it in a less people die kind of thing. Um, and then someone asked in chat, and I feel like it's fair to ask the question. Um, do you, is there? I'm struggling to find a like say a situation where violence against an explicit group is warranted. When so like this is what
I mean, like just
well
like what it would depend on like what you mean by a group. If you're talking about like people who are like of a race or like ethnicity, a nationality from a certain place,
right.
that
So
has nothing to do with like how they would like ever feel about this issue or what they would do.
so the specific question was: do gay people in the countries where they throw gay people off rooftops have a moral justification to take violent action against non-gay people as a group? That was the question.
As a no.
Okay, just making sure because I feel like because most of the time when I think of like political violence or like political violence like that I'm like more chill with, it's like explicitly like defending against aggressors like or people that are actively
Is
attacking
that what
them.
some people think that they're like
No,
if wait, no, wait, if it's like, oh, there are gay people being thrown off roofs. So do you think that just gay people can just start gunning people down in the street? Like what the fuck kind of question is that? What the fuck? Obviously, if there's someone and they're like trying to break into your house and they're like, "We are going to kill you now." Yeah, I think that you could like fight back against that personally. But that doesn't mean that now we can have like homo fascist gay squads in like pickup trucks with miniguns on the back just rolling down random streets like gunning people. Like come on. Be an adult.
I guess they're like a frustration or their question, and I'm I'm not like trying to put this like in your mouth, right? Um, so I guess like the question, or the question that like a lot of us, or a lot of like people have, or that I would have, like necessarily, and I don't really have a perfect answer for this. Like I'm mostly like shooting the shit with you right now about this. Like I'm not trying to like do like a big dunk where it's like, no, actually this. But if we divide like everyone into say like oppressor versus oppressed, I f- I'm just I'm trying to consider like a consistent list of rules of like what I'm okay with like oppressed people doing in regards to like defending themselves. And obviously, I assume we would agree that like depending on how bad the oppression is, the responses that are warranted would be different, right? Like if you're being
Yeah,
hunted,
we can
yeah,
we can talk about like oppressor and oppressed, but those are like really broad groups about like about like how this group as a group acts on this that group as a group. But you specifically being a part of that, the like aggressing group has nothing to do with like you. If we're talking about like an ethnicity or a demographic, that has nothing to do with your personal feelings on this or how you're going to act in a situation with like someone who is like a victim of this aggression. Like that's not that it's important to talk about like socioeconomically to dividing groups in that way, but not for a sort of like self-defense measure that doesn't make any sense. I don't think anybody rational has ever like thought about that like you can now just randomly attack people who you've decided who are now a part of this group. You have to actually if violence is something that's going to be like something that's going to be used or thought about being used, there should be like a pretty valid reason. Mostly like you need to be in like mortal danger from these certain people. When I say like groups, I'm not talking about people who live in those countries and people who are being and the gay people who are being killed. I mean, the people who are killing people and the people who are being killed.
right. Like and I agree with you, right? This is like this is why we make fun of like the white nationalist dump fucks who are like, oh, like if white people become a minority, we're going to be oppressed. It's like no, like we're gonna be fine. You know what I mean? So I agree with you there. It was more just like a question about like how to do like these, how to try and like fix these like dynamics, or I think it's like the idea of explaining but not excusing, right? Where it's like, oh, hey, like we can understand why this group is behaving X way. It doesn't mean that everything they do in pursuit of like, say, like an end goal or is like good, right? I think that's a pretty like a normal thing to say. So
Sure, like we can talk about whiteness, but that doesn't tell you about an individual white person. And we can talk about like oppression of minorities, but it doesn't tell you about the condition of like any random minority and like the life that they've lived. You can't you people and the lives that they live are more complicated than just that. But once again, like speaking like socioeconomically and from like a position of like the actual like situations that people talk about broadly, because that's really the only real way that we can talk about these issues. Then yeah, like there's nothing wrong with talking about groups.
I know what you mean. That's yeah, that's fair. I haven't that's pretty much everything I wanted to ask you. I think this was fun. I haven't talked to you a bit. How was your how was your Christmas and your New Year? Did you have fun?
It was fine. I recently turned 23, so I'm feeling like a big boomer.
Let's go.
Big boomer energy.
Hey,
Yeah, I miss being 22. 22 is like peak Zoomer age,
dude.
honestly.
I'm 24 going on 25 in September. Like I feel so old. Like 22 is like, you just graduated from college like age, or like you're old enough that like you can drink and you can do stuff and like everything feels fucking awesome. And then now it's like, nope, I'm mid 20s. Now I feel like shit.
Hey, you're halfway to 30. You're halfway to shoes age. Look at you.
I'm one foot in the grave. All these fucking old people. Like it just
Basically.
it's like whenever I think, because I think I'm super young, especially like at work, right? Like I'm probably one of the youngest people at my workplace. But it's like when I come online, all these fucking teenagers are just like everywhere. And I'm like, guys, like, what do children talk about? Like, my younger brother's 18, and I'm like, what do you do for fun? Like, what games do you play? Like, what shows do you? I don't know anything about, like, there's like this barrier for me for like people that are more than like 5 years younger than me. I'm just like, I can't even begin to like give a shit about like knowing what they're into. You know what I mean?
They play Fortnite.
They do play. My younger brother does play a lot of Fortnite. I asked.
See, that's what they do.
I'm trying to be a good big brother. I asked him what he wanted for Christmas, and he said he wanted Hollow Knight. So I got him Hollow Knight. And I got him like the extended like music edition and stuff like that. And he hasn't even played. He's like, I've been playing Fortnite with my friends. I'm like, fuck. Like, I can't.
No, he'll get to it. Hollow Knight's like a 100-hour game. It takes some time. I'm still getting through Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I beat it.
It takes a while.
I beat it the first time, and I haven't touched it since. Maybe it was like the difficulty, like was just kind of, like frustrating for me. But at some point, I just kind of felt like I was grinding to make my materials slightly better, and then hoping to get lucky with the proper thing. I did like it. Have you gotten to the Colosseum part yet? I love the Colosseum. Even though it does get
Maybe I don't know. I need to go back to the game. I haven't touched it in a little while. I've been trying to finish Breath of the Wild, and then we're gonna be playing Bayonetta after that. But we need to finish Hollow Knight. But yeah, Hollow Knight's pretty sick. I really enjoy it. I'm trying to make sure that I play more games. I started 2 new channels, so
oh nice.
that's important to get some extra stuff.
What you end up naming the gaming channel?
The gaming channel is Sharkade.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it was a pretty good name. And then the other channel is for like stun locks and like things that don't fit for the main channel, and that one's called Shark Bites.
I need a more brandable name. I feel like putting Hans everywhere just feels weird. But
yeah, it sounds like you're you know what it kind of reminds me of? You know those like weirdo white nationalists who like weird ass fucking like old English names? It's, if you throw it everywhere, it's kind of what I think of, you know, when I hear Hans is like the like a Germany like pub girl in like the like skirt and the puffy sleeves, and she's serving up beer in those big mugs. That's what I see.
yeah, I'm not wedded to like Harkir, but I love Hans so much. I just like, I just think it's fun. And then, but I don't know where to. I had so many people ask me, especially when I was just starting out, where they're like, "Are you like a Sargon of Akkad?" And I'm like, "No, fuck."
See, that's what they see.
Yeah, like, but I feel like if I go to just by Hans, I feel like there's other Hanses. You know what I mean? And I don't want to get lost in the wave.
I do know some people will confuse it with Haas, which is
that is the most frustrating thing when people like fucking confuse me with that goddamn like that absolute lunatic. To be fair, I'm my own type of lunatic, okay? But like I am not the same as that guy. And I'm just like, oh. There was this moment where for about like 3 weeks where like everyone like thought we were the same person, and I was getting really fucking salty about it. But
yeah, I mean, your names are pretty close. I mean, I don't have like a unique name. It's just like Shark, and people always misspell it. They always call me Shark30, and Dylan has known me for a while, and he still calls me Shark30. I don't know why.
Bruh.
But I think it may have to do with racism. I'm not sure yet, but I'm still thinking about that. But you know, my name is not Shark30. The character after the 3 is not a 0, it's an O. It's very clearly smaller. It's very clearly the same size as the lowercase 0 in front of it or after it. I don't know.
I got you. I was like, hey, like I want to be let known. You implied there that Dylan was racist for calling you Shark30, and I just want to say, Dylan, I don't think Dylan is racist. All right, he's not being slandered. I had like 2 different people come on.
No, Dylan is racist for having sex with black people.
That makes me racist too. But like, well, the meme? But like the meme is I've had 2 people come in and ask and say that Dylan wants to fight me, but apparently it's like him and Infrared are setting up like a boxing match. Have you heard about that?
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like,
I have not.
I was gonna say like people kept saying like, oh, Hans, are you gonna fight Dylan? And I'm like, I mean, like, is it like for a good cause? Like, can we do like a charity box or like, so, like what are we doing? But apparently it's like him and Infrared were talking shit, and we're gonna see if that's see if that's a thing. But
yeah, go multiple rounds.
Yeah,
just make it a tournament. Make it a political boxing tournament.
Dude, that'd be so sick. I feel like we could like rent out like a UFC gym or something like that for a night, and then just have like a ref, medic on standby. It would be so much fun. We could do like
yeah. I mean, if people are gonna compare like all this shit to an anime, we might as well have a tournament arc.
Dude, I would be so down for the fucking tournament arc. And, like, we could all like vibe in DC. Or like that'd be because I'm actually close to DC. I live in Virginia, so it's like
you're doxing yourself.
I'd be like I'm Hans from V. What is it? VI like or VA? Like
Yeah, VA.
yeah, Hans from VA. But people know
Yeah.
I like work in Virginia. No, I don't think people know the
Or Mike from Redacted.
I don't think people know the exact city. But like I'm in Virginia. But yeah, I'd be down for a
Virginia.
fucking. I'd be down for like a fucking tournament arc. Dude. That'd be just like we would have to like do like fighting. What about like wrestling so like people don't like die? That'd be so much fun. Like, I'd be. We could do like we
Just boys wrestling boys.
dude. You ever just wrestle with the homies? Like I find that super fun. I talked about this before.
I haven't in a while, but I'm a pretty solitary person, so I don't spend too much time with other people.
Come wrestle with me, Shark. I'm ready.
You're like much bigger than me.
I know that's why when people were talking about like me fighting Dylan, I was like, I'm pretty sure he knows how to fight, but like I also feel like I'm probably the largest person on Twitch, or like, at least like political Twitch. I mean, maybe like Alec Gunter's like stronger than me, but I'm pretty sure I'm the biggest guy. But it's like,
Well, I mean, what's his name? What's his fucking name? Raj? Who's the guy?
Rod.
His name starts with an R, and he does like that one, the something he used to do like the
Oh,
something
Raj Royale.
Raj, yeah. Isn't he like 7 foot tall or something?
I don't actually know. I don't. Yeah, that was like way before my time as a creator. I don't even. But dude, we talked to Dylan. Dude, can you imagine? Like, we need like at least 8 people, right? So we could like have an actual tournament bracket. But that would be fun as fuck.
Raj is Austin. Okay.
Oh, really?
I've never watched that dude. He kind of when I see him, he kind of makes me uncomfortable. So I've never decided to
Wait,
to watch any of his stuff.
What's the uncomfortable thing like?
He seemed like the type of guy to beat women, but like,
Oh shit!
think that it's not a problem. You know what I mean? He comes up like that's and
I-
that doesn't be me, but those are the vibes that I get. You know?
Bro, like I know, like I mean, I've never met him, so maybe he's a shit dude, but like, holy fuck!
He's gay. I don't know. He may be one of those gay dudes who just really hates women. I don't know.
Do you have anything for this? This is like, oh my god!
Like, I mean, like once
I just
again,
want to know now.
I'm just telling you
just
what I think. Like once again, I haven't heard him speak for more than like 10 minutes. I'm just saying, like the vibes he gives off. I feel like he would try to murder someone if he got mad enough.
What are my vibes? You can be
I
honest.
don't know. You're perplexing.
What's the most perplexing?
I don't know. It's like you seem like fine, but then I feel like you go a little wacky. You go a little sicko mode for almost no reason. If you do, it's kind of like it's not explained, but you know why. But like other people, I feel like you're the type of guy to get really mad about something that everybody thinks is fine. And I'm not saying that like it's bad. That's bad necessarily, but it's like people are like, why are you so mad? And they have no clue why, but you know why. And I'm not sure if you know how to explain it or something, but that's the type of vibe that I get off. That we just be like, you'd be chilling with a group and then you'd be really mad at someone for saying something and everyone's like, what happened?
I got you. That's fair. I think I've explained why I've been mad like recently pretty well. But maybe I don't always explain it perfectly in the moment. But I think I've done like a good amount of like explaining tertiary stuff for that specifically. But I know what you mean. I guess you could say I have a bit of a temper. In that I'm normally pretty good with dealing with a lot of stuff. But eventually I just kind of blow my top and I find things pretty frustrating. And during those moments, I'm normally pretty unforgiving. So that's fair.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm just not the type of person to ever like. I don't really get mad necessarily, and if I do, I don't like start yelling. It's just I don't know. It's just like not in my blood. My dad doesn't do it. My mom doesn't necessarily do it. I don't know. Just we're in the family. I have a pretty long fuse.
That's
I don't remember the last time I've ever really blown up. I don't know. Maybe like the last couple of days because like. Kunta J decided to quote tweet me and say some dumb shit, and so I called him subhuman. And so he got really mad about that.
Oh shit! No, good for you. No, it's like
no, it was like the first time I've ever interacted with this absolute troglodyte. And so I wanted to make it my last time as well. I forget what I said. What did I say? I said something, and it was kind of mean, but also like he deserved it.
It feels
Once again, the low IQ troglodytes are crawling from their nests to make sure they spend every second of their day doing anything besides engaging in actual political work for Black and Brown families. Unfortunate, but I wouldn't expect much from something like you. And he got
oh,
really mad about that.
ooh, that's pretty funny. No, it's like
He deserved it. He's.
no, I
I'm
completely
sorry if that guy.
no, I completely agree. I am very much in favor of responding with force to people who deserve it. I guess like it's weird because like even like my family, like both of my brothers and my dad and my mom are all very non-confrontational. It's mostly just me where I just like I don't like maybe it's like just like some like from like the way I grew up and like how I was like sort of raised. But I really don't like people who like talk a ton of shit and don't expect like to get hit, if that makes sense. I really don't like people who I really just don't like bullies. But I've always been like a big favor of counterpunching in regards to that.
Yeah, you're like
Yeah.
equal rights, equal fights, right?
Yeah, of course. And then just like, and whenever someone's like, "Oh, like I can't believe you went so hard on that one person," I'm like, bro, they started it. Like, I'm sorry, but like, I don't think I'm pretty sure you'll never really find me throwing the first punch. It's almost always me responding to something, and
I mean, it's
but
you're
and
not.
to
I
be fair,
mean, sure, but
I go
it's not
hard as
like
fuck.
anybody
Like,
is
but like I
sure. It's not like everybody is like absolved if they don't throw the first punch, because someone could throw a first punch and then you could like club them to death. You know, like a reasonable response is also
I haven't killed
is
anybody
also
yet.
important.
But I know what you mean. But anyway, I'm gonna get to the rest of the reacts. It's good talking to you. We should have more pleasant disagreements more often.
And take care.